Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and today we are going to be taking a look at the staff shell for the main battle tank from Battlefield 4. Going into this, I had absolutely no idea how this thing functioned. I read the description for it, and it kind of sounded that maybe it was an anti-infantry type of shell, where it would airburst over their head and give you some nice little splash damage and some kills on them that way. But after firing multiple shells at enemy infantry, I wasn't having a whole lot of success with it. I got a kill here and there, but it never seemed to burst above their head, and it wasn't giving me any real splash damage. And so I was about to conclude that this thing is a pile of crap, and why would anyone want to use it? But then I fired it at an enemy vehicle, and that's where the magic happened. And then after using this for multiple rounds and basically using this as an anti-tank shell, I quickly discovered that this is borderline overpowered. Like, it is insane at taking out tanks. So the way it works is exactly the same way that the Law does for the engineer class, where if you fire a rocket in the general direction of an enemy vehicle, as long as the rocket is somewhat close to it by the end of its trajectory, it's gonna lock onto it at the last second and then explode. And for the staff shell against another main battle tank, it does a solid 25 damage. And what's awesome about this is that it is amazing at taking out long distance targets. You guys know that the main shells for the main battle tanks isn't great at trying to snipe out an enemy vehicle that's kind of off in the distance heading towards an objective. You have to deal with a lot of arc in the shot, it has a slow travel speed, and so trying to line up and predict where the tank is gonna be is not an easy task. Like, you need to be in the tank for a while to start to kind of understand the physics and to really know what's going on to nail those shots consistently. And so with the staff shell, while it doesn't necessarily take all the guesswork out of it, you just need to be kind of in the general area where you shoot, and as long as you get close, it's gonna lock on and do that solid 25 damage. But where things get borderline overpowered is when you switch between your main shell and the staff shell quickly, and it almost kind of turns into a mini Gatling gun. Like, it is incredible. So here's a really good example of it. I'm going against an enemy vehicle. We're kind of firing shots back to back. I first fire off my staff shell. I switch on over to my main, and then when I switch back on over to the staff, I'm able to fire it off almost immediately. There's no reload, there's like no delay. You're able to fire it off almost instantaneously. And so at this point, as long as I've hit every single one of my shots, which isn't all that difficult because at least 2 of them are gonna lock on as long as I get close, I've done about 75% of the enemy tank's health. And at that point, as long as I get one more shot into him, he's gonna die. And what it was kind of coming down to was 9 out of 10 times, if I started a firefight against an enemy tank and we both started to shoot at the same moment, I was gonna win that engagement, as long as they also weren't using a staff shell, as long as there wasn't any sort of outside force, or even if there were outside forces. Like here, for example, that I come across 2 tanks, I'm able to get away at the same time taking both of them out. Like, it is incredible. And it all just comes down to switching between your main shell and the staff shell quickly, kind of turning it in to a mini Gatling gun. And I'm not exactly sure if this is what DICE intended, because that third, or the shot between the third and the second, is so quickly, like it's instantaneous. And so this could just be a bug at this point. But as things stand right now, this is easily the most powerful and most effective way at taking out vehicles when you are using, or you are in, the main battle tank. Another nice component of this is that it makes it very easy to line up shots when you're on the move, and you're also on bumpy terrain. You guys know when you're in the tanks and you're going over those rough bumps and ditches, you kind of get jostled around, and trying to be accurate and trying to shoot another tank and you're in a tank battle when you are going over those bumps can mean the difference between life and death. Like one of those bumps that kind of happens out of nowhere and your cannon kind of flies up in the sky and you miss your shot and they aren't missing their shots, you're not going to last very long. But if you are in those situations and you are using the staff shell, it takes all the guesswork out of it, and so you can kind of run away, you can either chase an enemy vehicle, you can kind of do all of those things and not really have to worry about it, and that's just another nice thing about this shell. All that being said though, this does have its weakness, and probably its most glaring issues is that you're gonna be piss poor at taking out infantry units. Like if you come across a large clump of infantry on the ground and they're all kind of hiding behind rocks and they're just firing a bunch of rockets at you at that point, you're not gonna last very long. Like if you don't have the heavy machine gun or the light machine gun, you don't really have any effective way at taking them out. And so if you don't have a gunner as your secondary or in the secondary seat, you pretty much just need to run at that point. Like you are just not gonna be able to drop them quickly enough for you to survive those engagements. And so for certain maps, this is fantastic. Like if you're on Gold Mud Railways and all you wanna do is go around and slay enemy vehicles, this combination is fantastic. But if you're on more infantry focused maps, or you're on a section of the map that has a lot of infantry around them, you're gonna be at a pretty huge disadvantage. So if this all still sounds very appealing to you and you would like to give this a try, I do have some loadouts that I would recommend that work very well in combination with the staff. So pretty much what I was using throughout today's video was the Sabo rounds. It has kind of the same type of trajectory and flight pattern as the staff shell, and so pretty much as long as you're able to land one of the shots, the other one is pretty much guaranteed to hit. Like it allowed me to be very consistent with all of my shots. But if you want to play a little bit more up close and personal, then of course use the HE rounds. Like that is going to decimate enemy tanks, and if you do want to play a little bit more aggressively, then I would go down that route. But if you want to take it a step further and you want to be even better at tank-on-tank combat, then I would recommend using active protection. This, when activated, is going to eat an RPG, it's going to eat a javelin, it's even going to eat a tank shell. And so if you activate it at the right moment, like right before they're about to fire on you, it's going to eat it, you're not going to take any damage, and if they aren't also using active protection, you now just ate a shell, and as we've said before, missing one shot in a tank battle is going to mean the difference between life and death, and so you pretty much just guaranteed that you've won that firefight. So if you can't tell, this is just an incredibly powerful combination, and it's borderline overpowered. Like I admit, it is a little ridiculous. And so even if DICE does go on in and they do change the mechanic where it doesn't fire instantaneously after that second shot, this will still be a very potent weapon to use. Now you guys know that one of the main drawbacks of the new reload system is that while it does require you to kind of think about your engagements a little bit more, you have to conserve your ammunition, it does make it very challenging to take out multiple vehicle targets. Like if you come across 3 tanks, even if you get them from behind, you're just not gonna have the ammunition to take all of them out. But that's not the case if you are running with the staff shell. So that's just another awesome advantage. But that is about it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the staff shell. Do you think it's overpowered? Do you think that something needs to be done? Or are you happy with how it performs? Let me know down below in the comment section. But until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.